Hello traders, welcome to the weekly outline setups volume 240. Iliya here. You know what we're going to be doing in this video, having a look at the markets, how they developed this week, what kind of opportunities we had, and most importantly, what we can expect for the upcoming week. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Alright, so before we jump into the technicals, it's very important to first have a look at the fundamentals and try to frame our trading week in terms of the news. Now, what we can see is that on Monday, we don't have much. We have just some NZD major impacts. So if we're trading the New Zealand dollar, could be nice, right? But no USD, no GBP, no Euro news, most importantly, no USD news. So Monday will very likely just set up a little bit of an accumulation for what is going to be happening for the rest of the week. And then we can see on Tuesday, we're starting with some GBP news. So London could be nice for GU, for example. And then we're having PPI for the US dollar paired with a speech from Mr. Powell. So very big volatility could come in right here. But this one is also setting up before the highlight of this week. And also pretty much that's going to be the highlight for this month because we already have the Fed's interest rate. We already have NFP. Did we have something else? I'm not sure, but pretty much the biggest drivers within every currency are pretty much, again, for the US dollar, the NFP and the interest rate for that currency. All right, and then we have, of course, the CPI. So this week we are having CPI for the US dollar. Extremely important. That is also paired with retail sales, manufacturing index. So Wednesday, 3:30 my time, that is 8:30 New York time. That is when you're gonna have a very big kickoff. Very, very big. And pretty much, if you want to frame, if you want to be a professional, if you want to trade, if you want to frame your trading week in the right way, I would say just wait for that news to come out. And then the next day is gonna be incredible. Friday is gonna be incredible. And all the incoming week also is potentially going to be incredible because you have all kinds of news into the upcoming weeks, right? But right now, everything is over. NFP is out, interest rates are out. And as you can see this week, we didn't have any kind of USD news and the market was rather choppy, especially for the USD. So again, next week, Wednesday, CPI, after this one is out, that is when it's action time. Let us start with the DXY, on which we are going to see a slight bit of a choppiness right now. Once again, as I said, we did not have any news this week, so the market was rather slow. Now, again, building up a little bit of a context, we had this monthly bearish imbalance. The market tapped in. It tried to push here for 2 months. The first month rejected. The second month tried to push lower, failed. And then in April, we had a very nice expansion higher that truly makes me think that we could be attacking this high. But is it really going to do so? Well, we're going to see next week. Because what I also see happening right now is we are not making a brand new monthly bullish imbalance to potentially suggest that buyers are stepping in, okay? And so far we've had overall 2 weeks of May. The first week plunged very nicely lower. And this week was an inside bar, extremely choppy. Now, why was this week like that? And why I did not trade this week was because I was aware that CPI is coming into the next week, into the week that is currently upcoming, right? But again, this week I pretty much did not trade because I know that this incoming week, right, slightly bit confusing right there, CPI is incoming, okay? So I'm framing even my trading month in terms of when those major news are coming out. And you can pretty much see it within price. We had that weekly bullish imbalance. Oops, what the hell did I just do? The market tapped in, reacted, and we have this very massive bearish candle that's coming into that overall sell candle. That is our demand zone, that is our OB. Didn't reject as much, and again, this week did nothing. Why? Because we didn't have any USD news. We just had some unemployment rate, but that didn't cause anything. And right now, we are slightly bit stuck. Is it going to react bullish? We don't have a lot of signs. Is it going to go bearish? We also don't have a lot of signs. And then we transfer onto the daily, and this is where it gets even trickier. We had this bearish daily imbalance. The market came in again, kind of looks like it's invalidating it. Then we tapped into this last buy candle before the market dropped and broke the structure here. That reacted very nicely, and you can see, however, on the way up, we had this bullish daily imbalance that suggests that there was some sort of bullishness incoming. But so far, again, we're not seeing clearly. Like, we had this massive tap into that daily imbalance, and then the next day took out the previous daily low and pushed higher, and also invalidated a new bearish daily imbalance from forming. So the current signs, the current confluences that you're getting are absolutely mixed up. I do not see any bullish signs. I do not see any bearish signs as well. So I have no idea what it's going to be doing, what the dollar is going to be doing. And why is the market behaving in this way? Because it's waiting for the CPI. And that is when we're going to have the clarity. Wherever the market goes, I don't care, because I'm just going to follow it. Because right now, of course, you can start over thinking, okay, well, structure is bullish. The market pulled back. It tried to push and it failed. Like, to me, it doesn't make sense to pull back here into that weekly imbalance and not start making hard highs. Why is it pushing lower that deep? Okay, it's coming back below the 50%. It's rebalancing this imbalance. It's tapping into that OB to the left. Well, cool. But still, we don't get the signs whether it wants to actually go higher. So right now, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to be dropping on the foyage. Because the hourly time frame, we had a tap of that OB to the left. We printed that massive hourly bearish imbalance that the market actually came in during New York session on Friday. We swept that previous daily low. We came into that hourly imbalance. We reacted and we closed. So right now we have absolutely no zones and pretty much no context to be working with. Okay, so I am simply going to be saying once again, I mean, I know I've been saying this a lot very recently, but it's just been rather unclear, and we very rarely get a very clear 100% bias. And pretty much you should know that usually the market is like this. It doesn't give you very clear, but when it is clear and when it is just stupid simple, that is when you have to go bigger, okay? So for next week, I'm simply waiting for Tuesday to pass with the PPI, with the speech from Powell. But then, of course, that is going to set up for Wednesday when we have that CPI. And after the CPI, pretty much again after the CPI release itself, and then on Thursday and Friday, and then all the rest of the weeks that are coming in, that is when I'm going to perform at my best, of course, trying to make my monthly return. Okay, so that is the plan for the DXY. So again, don't try to overanalyze, because this week is pretty much everything's going to change. Well, as we just had a look at the DXY and we don't have a clear bias there, we all get those mixed signals, it's going to be pretty much the same with EU. On the monthly time frame, it looked like it wanted to go down, and right now we are printing that bullish candle overall. We're still inside the previous monthly candles high and low, so still it could definitely flush lower, it could also definitely flush higher. Let's try to gather some potential confluences about where it wants to go, and this is where it also gets a little bit tricky. Now on the weekly time frame, we had overall bearishness. It was not bad. We had this weekly bearish imbalance. The market tapped in, very nicely followed through lower to also create another weekly bearish imbalance. But we came in during that week, we rejected very nicely. All right, it's good. But then the second week very nicely pushes higher and also closes above that previous weekly candle high. So that to me is a bullish sign. Now, here you can start looking at it in different ways as well. You can then take, for example, that buy candle, which is what we have similar on the DXY, and that could be our order block candle, taking it from the body. It came in, reacted, and then this week we did absolutely nothing. Like, we moved 60 pips this week. Like, come on. Dropping onto the daily time frame, what we can see, what I was seeing is a slight bit of a bullish order flow kicking in on EU, and I really thought that Friday could potentially expand higher. Why? Because we had here, okay, there was a bigger imbalance here. They still changed the price data. Oh yeah, there is still a very small imbalance here, but it was a lot bigger. So the market came in here into also the sell candle, reacted very nicely, but then taps us into that area to the left. And also, as you can see, this area to the left is this daily big buy before this big sell-off. We also have this very big imbalance that the market tapped into, but we took out the reaction. You can see we had 1, 2, 3, 4 days that the market is like pulling back into this daily bullish imbalance. All right, and then pretty much on Thursday, where we had the only news for the US dollar, we swept that previous daily low and we had a nice expansion. And then I thought, okay, well, potentially Friday or potentially the rest of the week, well, yeah, pretty much Friday, the final day, could potentially continue going higher. But what we did is we also chopped on Friday. Why? Because again, we had no news to move the market. But what we're having right now is on EU, which is extremely interesting, and I'm going to be very curious to see how that is going to play out, is we actually formed a daily bullish imbalance. So that is currently my contextual area that I'm going to be looking for the market to tap and then potentially go and attack the highs. So how does that look like on the hourly time frame? It looks pretty good, because on the hourly time frame we had again this accumulation, the market manipulated, expanded very nicely. So right now we're making this sort of pullback, and you can see on Friday the market pretty much tapped into this hourly zone, but it failed to go. Why did it fail to go? Because right now it built up this daily zone that it could potentially tap, and then it could go from the daily. So on EU, sorry for my voice breaking. So on EU, I am definitely bullish, looking to use that daily imbalance for the market to tap in and then potentially to continue going higher. If I start seeing some bullish order flow, then I will definitely be curious to be taking longs. But once again, I will maintain my patience until that CPI, and then it's going to be action time. GU has also turned into a very tricky pair. We're having a tap into that monthly bullish imbalance. The market rejected very nicely last month, and again this month so far we haven't done much. So very likely once again it's waiting for the US CPI, because I do believe we had GBP rate, right? But it didn't do much. So here we're having a monthly bullish and we're having a weekly bearish. This is what I call a supply and demand sandwich, when the market is battling between two imbalance areas or two pretty much zones, right? We tapped in, tried to react, we came even higher, we still are wicking, all right? So I'm seeing the bearish rejection, and that bearish rejection is potentially coming from these two buy candles before the drop. That is our pretty much drop base drop. This is a very nice supply area. And this week we came in to take out the previous weekly low, we rejected, but again, no clues. This weekly candle is giving me no clues about what could potentially happen next. It's not clearly bearish. So if it was going to be bearish, then I would like to see a close below the previous weekly low to potentially show me that I want to commit lower. If it's long, I would like to see a bullish push. What I see is that wick that swept the previous weekly low. That gives me a slight bit of a bullishness. But then it gets interesting when we go to the daily. Because like, look at the chop. Like, it's been super tricky for quite some time right now. We formed that daily bearish imbalance, but look at how the market came inside it. It came with massive bullishness. Now, why did it do this? Well, we could say because it swept the previous weekly low, maybe, which is it that one? Let me just double check. Yep. So we swept this very strong liquidity point, which is a daily swing low and a previous weekly low. We swept it and we massively rejected. And right now we're still tapping inside that daily zone. So is this daily zone going to hold? We gotta see. Okay, can the lower time frame give us a little bit more clues about where it wants to hold? Well, coming into that daily bearish, we didn't really have any bullishness. No. Tapped in, reacted, came in deeper, trying to react. Then this massive candle, no clues. No clues overall. So here what I'm looking for once again is just price. Is it going to make new hourly bearish imbalances and hourly bearish structure? Then I will be interested for shorts. But if the DXY decides to, for example, go short and EU decides to go long, then that one could potentially get higher. But again, I will need to have areas to work with. I will need to see hourly imbalances going higher, breaking structure, clearly showing me where he wants to go. Because right now, it's just super unclear. Let's not forget we're still coming from that monthly zone, right? Then we dealt with that weekly zone, and right now we're dealing with this daily zone. So again, if the market starts showing us clear bullishness, then it's very likely going to start getting easy to be targeting all of these highs. Because right now the market again came into that daily zone and that caused this very massive reaction, all right? But that reaction is going to follow through lower. This is what we have to see this week. Okay, so for GU, absolutely no clear bias. I am looking for price and I'm looking for impulses to just follow the footprints of the big boys. All right, Aussie dollar, which usually moves slightly differently to the DXY. So let's see if that can give us some more clues. Now, what I immediately see is that we're having a very nice bullish monthly candle so far. Okay, so that gives me a more bullish indication. Okay, that's good. Then on the weekly time frame, we see a pretty nice expansion higher. Okay, that's good. Now this week was extremely choppy and that's normal. And what I suspect we are going to be targeting right now is that major high. We had this high here taken. The market is taking out the reaction after taking out that high. And what you can see here is we're having a very tiny weekly bullish imbalance, and that is a pretty good sign. Okay, so I'm not going to necessarily require from the market to be pulling back into that weekly zone to potentially go higher. That would be nice, but just the fact that we're having a small monthly weekly bullish imbalance, that suggests bullishness. Dropping onto the daily, here it gets slightly bit once again consolidative, because we had that daily here, it failed, but then we had the next daily here that is paired with this sell candle. We tapped in. On the way lower, we had bearish. The market kind of broke the bearish, and right now we didn't print anything bullish. So it's again that super 50-50 situation. So again, I could see a couple of things happening. We could drive into that weekly and then go higher from there if it's going to be bullish. But looking at how also order flow is looking like here, let's not forget that we had this daily imbalance here. The market massively expanded and made new imbalances off of it. So that is, to me, bullish order flow. And right now we're just slowing down after taking this liquidity, also waiting for the news from the US dollar to then potentially make another move. So I am more bullish on Aussie dollar, which gives me a more bullish indication potentially for EU and GU, because they usually tend to go together. Now, if we try to explore this on the 4-hourly time frame, let's see what do we have. The only thing we have is that 4-hourly bullish imbalance here. We don't have anything bearish, and that is the only bullish thing. And again, you can see when the market doesn't have anything to react from, here pretty much late Thursday and the whole Friday, it just does nonsense. Okay? So I do foresee a couple of things happening here, but again, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to try to forecast anything right now, because CPI is going to come in on Wednesday and it's going to change the whole scene. I do see potentially the market starting to pop higher from that 4-hourly zone. However, if that 4-hourly zone fails, and if we start getting bearish order flow on the 4H, for example, that 4-hourly bearish order flow is going to guide us into that weekly bullish one. And then from that weekly bullish one, I'm going to be looking for the bullishness. It's that simple. So again, let's see, maybe the market could decide to already start going higher. That's okay, right? Then, for example, CPI can just massively pop the market higher. But again, don't try to forecast too hard. Have your zones, wait for them to get tapped, do your analysis, all right? But still wait for the news to come out, and then wait to see where the big guys want to drive the market. And then your job is then to follow them towards the next drawn liquidity, okay? So that's Aussie dollar, giving me quite some more bullish confirmation. Let's see how NZD dollar is looking like. NZUSD is similar. We're having an overall bullish monthly candle printing. We don't have anything bearish to potentially stop price and like cause it to move massively down. That's great. Then we drop to the weekly time frame. We can see on the weekly, we also, okay, that is very nice, by the way. That is very nice to see. We're having a very nice weekly bullish imbalance. And if we have a look to the left, there's nothing. Here we had a weekly bearish. All right, that is tapped. That's good. Perfect. So right now, this actually can become our drawn liquidity. That is potentially where the market could attack, because from this high to this low, that is a failed range. That is a failed order flow range, as I like to call it. Why? Because it failed to make a new imbalance, and right now it's failing to hold. So it's weak. So I'm going to be targeting potentially that high. How can we get towards that high? Either towards this weekly bullish imbalance, or maybe the market continues to go higher to make new lower time frame imbalances. Now you can see, for example, here on the daily, we have a small little one here. I can't even draw it, okay? So that is something that the market could potentially go higher from, that daily imbalance. Now, if this daily bullish imbalance fails, that is going to mean that it might want to drive us into the weekly. So you have to be really careful and observing everything that you have on every single time frame, because one time frame leads you to the other. All right, it's like a chain reaction. So right now you might have something on the 4H. Let me see if I can give you an example. Yeah, it's perfect. Look at this. So you have this 4-hourly zone, but this 4-hourly zone failed. It failed with intention. Why? Because the market wants to drive lower. Where to? Well, maybe towards this OB and towards this imbalance. But right now what we have is we have a daily imbalance here. So what I would expect to happen right now is for the market to tap into that daily and then to potentially start going higher. We also have NZD news on Monday, so that would be an extremely interesting situation to monitor. I'm even going to set an alert. However, if this daily zone fails, then that is going to mean that the market is showing us, the market is guiding us towards something else. What is something else? The weekly imbalance. So pretty much we either hold from that daily or we either break that daily, we make new bearishness, we tap into the weekly, and then from the weekly we look for potential bullishness if of course the market is going to go bullish. So that is my narrative on NZUSD. Let's see how it plays out, but overall giving me bullish signs, which also makes me a bit more comfortable to say that I'm going to be more long biased, for example, on EU and GU. But of course, let's see what the news will do. Let's have a look at what Mr. Gold is doing. So it looks like this month we're so far continuing higher. And you know that we also outlined that we have this monthly bullish imbalance. But the market doesn't look like it wants to come back to it right now. So where is it going? Well, let's try to break it down. Dropping onto the weekly time frame, we can see once again something similar that I explained to you just on the previous pair on NZUSD. Every single time frame contains information and it's going to tell you what the other time frame could potentially do. Now in that case we have this weekly imbalance, but we have also a monthly below it. So if the weekly doesn't hold, then that shows us it wants to go to the monthly. But if the weekly holds, then that shows us that it might want to take liquidity of the weekly. Okay? And so far we had this first candle tapping in, rejecting, second candle actually sweeping here. And then this week we're having a bullish indication, and that is pretty good. That to me looks like this weekly imbalance is actually holding. So let's see how the daily time frame looks like. Oh, gold is starting to look not that bad. We had a very tough period here, like since the market tapped it all the way here. We have 2 weeks, guys, 2 weeks that you didn't get a clear bias, and maybe you took a couple of stop loss. And this is why I haven't traded for 2 weeks. Can you believe it? Right? Why? Because I'm aware of the market, I'm aware of the fundamentals, and I'm aware that we're currently in a consolidation. Why? Because we're waiting for all those important news releases to pretty much give us the bias. And knowing how the DXY is extremely tricky, that makes, for example, all the other USDs tricky. But right now what I see on gold is that we're having a daily bullish imbalance that is coming from a weekly. So right now, again, here comes the chain reaction. If the market respects this daily, we're going to head for the weekly liquidity. But if the market disrespects that daily, then that could mean we're going to be going to the monthly. So this monthly zone is going to come and get tapped when the lower time frame starts failing and starts giving you bearish signs. And then pretty much they guide you to that next area of a potential rebalance, which is going to be that monthly. Okay. So far, however, I would say it definitely looks very nicely bullish. So I'm definitely curious to see how it's going to play out. Now, on the 40 time frame, we just had a massive expansion. All of a sudden, yeah, on Thursday's news, we chopped around big time, and then Thursday's news come out, and we just massively expand. So right now, on the 40 time frame, we do have a couple of small. There's a small imbalance here. There is one right here. But I would personally be looking to see how this daily zone is going to get tapped. Now, of course, you have 2 scenarios. It's either gonna pull back slightly a little bit and then continue to impulse higher. If you start getting 4 hourly impulses higher, then of course you can start following that 4 hourly, because then the 4 hourly is going to show you that the daily is not going to get tapped. Okay, but if you start getting bearishness, then cool, wait for that daily to tap, and then from that daily you're going to be looking for the market to start aligning bullish again, and then of course going for all the liquidity areas that you can be targeting. Okay, so gold is giving me a very nice bullish sign, a very nice bullish order flow, and right now, for example, monthly is bullish, weekly is bullish, daily is bullish, and 4 hourly is bullish. So this is just bullish. Okay, but once again, don't forget, we have very important news on Wednesday that could change the whole narrative. So be patient, but overall, clear bias on gold, looking very nicely long. The only question is, how are you going to get long? Well, first of all, wait for your entry zone, your point of interest, wait for that to get tapped, and then you simply wait for an entry model, and that's how you capitalize. Let's have a look at USD JPY. Now, so far this month, we're having a bearish month, but we very nicely rejected as well from something. So what we also failed to do is we failed to make a new expansion candle to also make a potential new monthly imbalance. And as you can see, we just came back to ping this first candle of potential new imbalance being created and rejected out of it. But that is pretty much an invalidation of a new monthly imbalance, which is overall a bearish sign overall. But we're very likely rejecting from that break and retest area to the left. You can see it's perfect. Like from that high, we have a double tap, broke, retested. So let's see what's next. Dropping onto the weekly time frame, well, we perfectly pulled back into that bullish weekly imbalance. Okay, that's very good to see. And this week we're having some bullishness, all right? But the last 2 weekly candles are rather sketchy. Okay, and with everything that's happening with the JPY, it has gotten extremely volatile and it has gotten a little bit messier, I would say. So I'm definitely avoiding trading USD JPY. It was looking quite good until they changed their interest rates and their pretty much their policy. And then since then it became a little bit more volatile, both a little bit choppier and then at times a lot more volatile. So rather strange. Now on the daily time frame, what I do like about the daily time frame is you can see that on the way down towards that weekly zone, we don't have any imbalances bearish. And if we don't have any imbalances bearish, we don't have pretty much anything to stop price from going higher. And what we're also having is we are having some bullishness kicking in from that weekly zone. All right, so we have two daily bullish areas, but the market is not tapping them, which is strange. And then Friday, instead of tapping into that daily, just runs away. So on USD JPY, it does look very bullish. So I'm going to be looking for a tap into that daily and then to potentially see what kind of reaction it is going to give me. Now, USD JPY right now is, I would love to say that it's dependent on the DXY, but with the change of monetary policy of Bank of Japan, this situation changes. Because right now, investors are positioning slightly more differently towards the yen. It was a safe haven, but is it anymore? Right? I don't know. And this is why we're right now seeing overall the US dollar increasing in value against the Japanese yen. Okay. Now, dropping onto the 40 time frame, it's probably not required because, yeah, you can see the last 2 days were extremely choppy, so we don't get any value from the 4H. So I'm going to stay on the daily. I'm going to be working with those daily areas, looking to see how they get tapped and if they give me a bullish reaction. And if not, then of course, if this overall bullish push fails to hold, then I'm just going to target it as liquidity. Again, guys, it's all about the flow. All about the flow. Right now, we're reacting from that weekly zone, taking out pretty much the reaction from that weekly. We're printing daily bullish, so I'm definitely more on the bullish side on this one. But if the bullish side starts failing, we fail that imbalance, we fail this imbalance, then we potentially know, and even if we make new bearish daily imbalances from here, then I'm just going to go short because I follow the market. And maybe then the DXY could also start getting a little bit short, so that is going to impact potentially USD JPY as well. But so far, it is bullish, so I'm going to remain bullish on that pair specifically, just waiting for that daily zone to tap and then waiting to see what kind of confirmation it's going to give me. And as you can see, the rest of the JPY pairs are also starting to look a lot more like UJ. We had a very nice drop. We're having a very nice rejection so far this month, but no overall areas to be working with. On the weekly time frame here on Euro Yen, we did not have a bullish imbalance like we did on USD JPY. So massive bullish, massive bearish, right now going bullish. Okay, but you don't tell me a lot. We dropped to the daily. Again, there is nothing bearish on the daily. And right now we're just making some bullish candles. Like since Monday, bullish, 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 bullish. Okay, that's pretty nice. We have all of these imbalances. Like there is the last one. We have, of course, one here. We have one below. But it's rather strange price action because if we just push up like that, without actually making order flow. And again, what is order flow? The market pushing, pulling back, pushing, pulling back, right? Retesting imbalances and then continuing to break higher. Right now, we just have a move up, move down, move up. It does look even more like a consolidation. On the 40 time frame, however, you potentially could have found some entries, but even if I look at it, even the 40 time frame looks like, I don't know, massive bearish. Then just all of a sudden starting to print bullish, reacting from all of these areas to the left, just taking out all the reaction. Right here you can see old imbalance, reacted, then pushing up into another old imbalance, reacting again until then it pretty much came in to take out that high. And then we just finished up a little bit bullish. So I just don't like the JPYs right now. The daily time frame is bullish, but it hasn't thrown a single retest. So I'm just looking to see some sort of a pullback potentially and then new imbalances to be created off of that pullback to then potentially show me that order flow is actually bullish. Because what we have so far is just bullish, bearish, and right now bullish. In terms of structure, you might say, all right, like from this low to this high, we pull back below premium, so we're in discount. And right now we're going back above to potentially target that high. Is that really the case? Definitely could be. So, however, I need to see more confirmation. I need to see slightly bit cleaner price action. Again, preferably what I really like to see is a pullback on the daily and then a new expansion with an imbalance. that will potentially show me that order flow is bullish, and I will be definitely curious to take a long. Right now, I just don't like it. GJ, very likely the same. Again, no new monthly bullish imbalances to potentially go higher. Okay, weekly time frame, it was a massive chop, and then all of a sudden bullish, bearish, bullish. Like, it's just strange. I'm sorry, but for somebody who's only trading GJ, I feel like you could be having some tricky time. Daily push, massive consolidation, and all of a sudden we're getting a massive daily push and then a massive daily push. And right now, like, it just makes no sense to me. Now here we do have a slight bit of a bearish daily imbalance that could definitely cause some sort of a reaction. All right. But again, on the way up, similar to like all the JPYs, it's starting to build. Like GJ, however, is a lot weaker. GJ is the only JPY that actually has something bearish and it doesn't have a lot of bullish. You can see, for example, EJ had like 1, 2, 3, 4 every single day created a bullish imbalance. UJ also 1, 2, 3 imbalances. While this one just made one here at first and then it consolidated. It didn't consolidate, but it pushed up in a very shitty manner, if I can call it this. So I'm literally not interested at any means into any JPY pairs right now. I think with the USD pairs right now, getting into the CPI and about to introduce some very clear bias, that is my focus. And I've simply decided to not trade JPYs, took them out of my plan. I'm just focusing on the DXY, EU and GU, and some indices as well. So that's GJ. Absolutely no clue what it's gonna do. And I have, again, no shame to admit it. I have absolutely no clue what the JPYs are going to be doing next. I don't see any clear order flow. All I see is just consolidations, up and down moves. It's not clear. I would say I'm more bullish on USD JPY and Euro JPY, but that's it. Is that enough? Definitely not. Time to have a look at some indices, starting from SPX 500, reacting very nicely from that monthly bullish imbalance. We're already printing a very nice bullish candle, potentially attacking that previous monthly high. Dropping onto the weekly time frame, the very good thing about SPX is that it didn't have anything bearish on the way down to potentially stop price, and this is why you're seeing it actually expanding a lot easier. On the daily time frame here, we had a slight bit of an accumulation just as we tapped that monthly zone, but right now we're starting to see the clarity. And pretty much this week there was a nice trade. Didn't take it, but there was a nice trade from that daily imbalance. Rejected on Wednesday, and then Thursday was a very nice expansion. And off of that expansion, we're making right now a new daily bullish imbalance. So I am definitely bullish on the indices. Definitely bullish on the indices. So again, for SPX namely, I am simply looking for that daily imbalance to tap, and then potentially to be looking for it to continue higher. First target, of course, is going to be that high, and then eventually we might get all-time highs. Now again, we have CPI and we have Mr. Powell speaking. Those things are definitely going to influence the stock market as well, so be vigilant, be open-minded, but so far the order flow is just showing me bullishness. So again, waiting for that zone to tap, waiting to see what kind of reaction we get, and potentially looking to go long on SPX. And I do believe the rest of the indices are actually the same. Nasdaq, let's have a look. Now here we had this monthly imbalance, but we also had that one below, which is what the market actually went to tap into, rejected. And right now, again, we're printing a very nice monthly bullish candle, potentially headed towards all-time highs. Once again, weekly time frame, here you can see in that case, we had that weekly bearish imbalance that we did not have on SPX. Here also we're having a new weekly bullish imbalance. Wait a second, don't we have this one on SPX? Oh, we do have. Look at how an important detail I missed. Right here. Now, that means if the daily zone fails, it might want to go back to the weekly. Okay, but I don't think it makes a lot of sense to come back to the weekly, but that is exactly that chain reaction that I explained to you on NZUSD and on gold as well. If, for example, the daily fails, it wants to go to the weekly. So keep that in mind. Now, it's very nice though. It's very nice that we're getting a monthly zone tapped and we're getting weekly imbalances going higher and the bearish ones are getting disrespected. That's absolutely incredible. Here you can see the market actually tapped into that weekly zone, and this is what caused this bearish reaction. Both here and here, okay? So right now this one is taken and we have a brand new zone to work with on the weekly. And what you can see on Nasdaq though is we still tapped into that daily zone. We pushed up very nicely, but we rejected. So here it becomes a little bit 50-50. You can see on SPX we have a new daily imbalance to work with. On Nasdaq we do not. So that means that Nasdaq could potentially right now pull back into the weekly and then go up from there. Or it could still follow up with SPX. So then if SPX, for example, holds from that daily zone and starts pushing higher, then Nasdaq is going to push higher without much context. Okay? So this is what I see on Nasdaq. It's slightly bit different, and that either means that Nasdaq is going to influence SPX to also pull back into that weekly. Okay? I'm watching them usually both, because both go hand in hand, and whatever one does, so for example here, Nasdaq tapped into that weekly bearish, and it made this very massive drop lower. SPX did not have anything bearish, but it also made the drop lower. Okay, so right now Nasdaq does not have anything bullish to continue higher from, so it might want to go to the weekly. That means that SPX might also give a little bit of a pullback, not necessarily to the weekly, but it might just, for example, disrespect that daily to pull back a little bit more until NAS taps into that weekly zone, right? And then they both can start continuing higher. All right, so keep that in mind, but definitely looks a lot bullish. I will eventually be looking for all-time highs. So again, being patient also for the CPI, and then it's going to get very interesting, but overall bullish on SPX and NAS. Let's have a look at US 30. Well, US 30, pretty similar once again. We're having a monthly imbalance that is tapped, and right now we're having a very nice reaction going higher. On the weekly time frame here, what we can see is we had two bearish imbalances. The first one failed, gave a reaction, and it failed. And right now we are kind of coming into the second one, but it doesn't look like it wants to hold as much. And also another important point here is that we're having a brand new weekly bullish. Now I follow only the most recent one. And then if we have a most recent one being bullish, then everything out that is not retested to me becomes what I call reaction areas, where the market could potentially react from. This one didn't react really, so I'm simply gonna delete it. This one is deletable as well. Now US 30, look at the strength. Like this one is the strongest. It's even stronger than SPX. Just a massive push higher. Here it actually retested slight bit of a daily to actually pull back to retest something, and then off of that it created a very nice daily bullish imbalance. So what I'm simply gonna say on US 30, it looks absolutely good. I mean, it just looks longs. Is going to hold from that daily or pull back a little bit deeper. I don't think US 30 and even SPX are going to pull back all the way down to the weekly. And if they do, it's going to be due to news. So US 30 looks absolutely bullish as well, heading towards all-time highs. So looking for longs. Very nice and very simple. All right, full circle back. The DXY is so far very 50-50. Doesn't give us a lot of clear signs about where it wants to go on the hard time frame. There are some scalps here and there on some pairs like EU and GU, for example, but nothing clear, nothing big. So this week we have CPI on Wednesday, so I'm just looking for CPI to come out and then start trading, because until then, it's very likely going to be continuing to chop around and just give us mixed signals. Monthly is right, it's bearish or bullish, then weekly is bearish or bullish, then daily this, and then fourly this. Everything is different. So what I'm looking for is to just get clarity about where it wants to go. Okay, and that clarity potentially is going to get achieved after the CPI on Wednesday this week, which means that once again, Euro USD right now is not tradable, although I do see it as a lot more bullish than bearish. So I'm definitely going to be more on the long side on EU. GU is very mixed up as well. Like this one has a lot bearish signs. Although it's tapping into a monthly bullish, it still has the weekly bearish. And then even the daily right now made the daily bearish imbalance. Is it going to hold? Is it not? I don't know. I'm once again looking for clear signs for it to just show me where it wants to go. And again, I'm only looking to trade when it's just stupid clear, when I know, okay, it's actually going higher. And right now, when I don't know, I just wait. And I protect my capital in the meantime. The Aussies, NZUSD and Aussie dollar, they are giving me some bullish signs, but it's rather uncertain about from where they're potentially going. So here we have a forward zone on AU, but we have a weekly zone on AU. We do exactly the same thing on NZUSD, although here we have also a daily zone to work with. So are they going to pull back into the weekly and then go higher from there? Or are they going to immediately start going higher? I don't know, but the important part here is that the bullish bias is a little bit cleaner. So I would prefer to trade Aussie dollar actually this week. Gold also giving us a very nice bullish sign. Monthly is bullish, weekly is bullish, and right now even daily is bullish in terms of imbalances in order flow. So I'm looking for longs on gold. Once again, being aware of the news, because the news is very likely going to influence gold as well. But overall, bullish bias, looking to see if it's going to continue higher without pulling back into the daily. But if it pulls back into that daily zone, then looking for potential longs. The USD pairs, the JPY pairs, I am just not interested. They are like up and down and consolidating and then massive up and then massive down. I just don't like them. And I'm sorry if you're looking to trade them. I just don't like them right now and I have no idea what they're going to be doing. So I'm going to be avoiding them. Indices, they are all giving us bullish signs, driving us potentially towards all-time high. I do believe it's quite logical for that to happen because we pull back into monthly, we rebalanced monthly, and right now we're looking to potentially continue higher. Daily imbalances on SPX, on NASDAQ, we don't have it, okay, but still SPX could react. And also on US 30, it's super bullish. So we have two SPX and US 30 very bullish. NASDAQ doesn't have a new daily, but it has a weekly. They all have a weekly bullish. Now the question is again, where are the indices going to pull back to? Are they just going to continue, for example, from that very recent daily zone, or are they going to pull back a little bit lower to the weekly? I personally think as we have a lot of bullish pushes and as we don't have anything much to the left to potentially stop price and like cause it to reject very, very violently to the lows, I do believe we're just going to go without big pullbacks. So if you're an indices trader, just keep the long bias towards all-time highs, but of course be aware of the news that are incoming, okay? So with this, I conclude this week. Let me know how you performed. Let me know what is your favorite pair looking for next week. I'm going to update you after Wednesday, and until then, trade safe.